Take this heart of gold, melt it
Go,
down,
go, 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 go!
and I'll come around. I'll come around. I'm treading lightly in your eyes.
Okay, so I'm clearly not in Tennessee right now. For the holidays, went up to Fawnskin where my parents live. They're retiring here in the mountains in Southern California. I wanted to end 2020 on a high note, which is very rare for me to do, but want to share some thoughts before the end of the year. So let's close it out good.
Well, with so much time to spend, why paint this house again? When the floorboards creak and pull you from your slumber, I'd hold you till the end. But honey, even oaks must bend if we intend to stick with one another. So take this heart of gold.
Okay, so let me tell a story. One of my favorite things in 2020 that's been keeping me alive and steady has been The Daily. It's a podcast by the New York Times. It's a daily podcast, obviously, that's usually covering politics or the pandemic this year. It was just a nice, well thought out and thoughtful program that I appreciated. Just the other day, I was out here shoveling snow for my dad to get our cars out and listening to this podcast from The Daily. And it wasn't the typical podcast that talked about politics or Trump or any other bullshit going on. Rather, they took a pause and just wanted to share stories that they had requested from all the listeners to send in. There's some very huge, like prolific stories and big things that happened, and very small things and small stories that are really insignificant to everyone else, but obviously important for those people. It was really inspiring for me and just kind of a heartfelt thing, which is not really my tone and speed. I'm usually a pessimist, I would say a realist. I wanted to pay that forward and just share some things, even though it's been a shitty year, things that I'm thankful for and things that I wanted to celebrate and put out there that are positive that happened this year for me, knowing that it's probably been a difficult year for you, and I want you to have some of those things to celebrate and know about as well. So after we finished shoveling the snow, I was thinking about that podcast, and honestly, it's been a couple difficult weeks. Difficult, I say, but we've been moving between houses, like I said in last week's video, and we're also going through a construction project across the country, and to say the least, there's a lot of logistics and things that are difficult about that. All that being said, it's not that big of a deal.
Out the door and down the drive, there's a part of me that tries to keep that highways called.
So yesterday, after we finished shoveling the snow, we went down the street to this awesome place here in Fawnskin. Did some sledding with my boys, with my mom and my dad, and it's just been a really great Christmas, being very slow. And I was in a very happy, very nostalgic state. It's very rare for me. I really have a hard time optimistic and find myself a lot of time in my head being analytical, deconstructing things. I'm an Enneagram 5 for those that you are into that. And so I was just reflecting on how grateful and how thankful I am, acknowledging my privilege and how grateful I am to be where I'm at in this stage of life. All that being said, knowing all the things that I have been going through and dealing with personally, wanted to acknowledge the good things because I have been dealing with a lot of things this last year. So three simple things that I'm thankful for that happened that were good to me. So three simple things that I'm proud. Three simple things that were positive in my life that happened in 2020. Number one, I successfully moved to Tennessee. That goes without saying. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look at the last video I posted. I'm gonna be out there in under 2 weeks and couldn't be more excited. There's a lot of work to do. I'm excited for that process in general, but that's a general big win for our family as hard as it's been, trying to manage all of the complexity that happens of trying to move across country during COVID remotely. Number two, community. This is something that seems like obvious, right? But I think it's in times like a pandemic or when you're moving or when you have family members that are really in need, when you realize those that you have that surround you that are there. I'm so thankful to have family and friends that are close to me and care about me. One thing that I've noticed in the pandemic is that although I enjoy so much time alone, I also acknowledge that being isolated as a person that struggles with depression is not a great thing. And it's been I think this is probably as much as an apology as it is a success or sharing of something that is great. But one of the best things that happened in 2020 is that I had a family that and friends that supported me, even when I wasn't like a good friend or brother or dad or husband. If you're one of those people, you know who you are. Thank you, and I love you. Gosh, I know also everyone doesn't have that, so if you don't have a strong community or you have a broken or less than healthy family, I understand that's difficult too. I'm just saying I'm so thankful that I have that, and it's something that I take for granted. And so as a person that's negative, I need to say those things because I forget. Okay. Number 3. It's the holidays and we're around family often if you were able and privileged enough to be able to see your family in this time. About 2 weeks ago, my dad and my mom came down to help us move. I think they're helping us move all of our last stuff out of our house. We're transitioning into an Airbnb, and my mom and my dad, all the kids were all jammed into a house with like half of our furniture. But my dad and I, we stayed up till probably 2 o'clock in the morning. I was just sharing him honestly a lot of the process of getting into Tennessee, a lot of the dreams I have for the property. He was processing a lot of his retirement with me. And we talked a little bit about like modern day stuff like pandemic and the shutdown and politics and stuff. But historically, me and my dad have had a great relationship. We've always talked, stayed up really late, always shared everything. But the last couple years haven't been that way for obvious reasons. And I know that like there's a lot of weird societal, generational, political, family, cultural, everything is dicey. I just want to say that like even in that complexity and in that disagreement and that tension, I still think there's a ton of commonality and a ton of beauty in the relationship and the people that surround us. This has nothing to do with design, even though I do think this is rooted in empathy and how we approach design and how we think about selling products and creating value in the world as creators, whether you're a photographer or whatever the hell you do. I'm ranting now. I just want to say that I stayed up late talking to my dad, and 3 months before that, I would say I wanted nothing to do with a conversation because I knew it would have ended in me being frustrated. And that's progress. I'm excited for that, and I'm thankful for that. That shows me that like there's still hope for next year. That's it. 3 simple things. If you have a great story or something that's awesome that happened this year, please put it in the comments, share your own video or whatever. Hit me up on Instagram. That's it. Happy 2020. See you guys next year, and be nice to each other.
I said a life without you could never steal